Brad. Obviously, Indiana basketball, the machine has started to turn there too. The media machine, the videos have started to pump out. We got summer practices starting. We'll start with summer practices. I want to talk a little bit about DeVries' quotes from Hoosiers at Huber, and I also want to talk about the roster. But summer, like, just what were your thoughts, kind of seeing summer ball, seeing guys pass the ball around, the clapping video, all that good stuff?
I really only saw the clapping video, to be honest, because you guys were talking about it in our group chat today. So I had to take a look at what are we talking about here. Because apparently people were reacting like, "Oh, love to see this, love to see clapping." Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah, there's energy at practice. They're better. Like, there's not. I mean, there's a whole...
Wait, we got some problems.
Oh my god. It's
yeah, I'm at the point where I'm just
good. I like the energy he brings. I like the things he said in that video. I think he said, it's every day, the work gets done in the gym. I think that, obviously that's coach speak, but like it's real. And I just need them to buy into it. And they seemed happy to be there, but not too happy to be there. I felt like there were times in the Woodson era where they were a little too happy to be there. There should be times when you go into practice like, this is gonna fucking suck. like that, like obviously you're putting in work, but it's not like, you're happy to be there, but not too happy to be there. Like I said, like, obviously I'm excited to get better and, practice, but it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be sunshine and rainbows over at, Cook Hall today. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be difficult. Apparently they were passing the ball around, which is great. They really struggled. They struggled with that last year. Not they, but the guys that were on the team last year struggled with that last year. And yeah, good to see they're not showing any shooting, which is good. Always makes people freak out when they show shooting. So glad they didn't do any of that.
I was gonna say my biggest takeaway just from those videos, other than the fact that they're bouncing the ball again in an Indiana uniform, is the fact that we saw Tucker DeVries practicing. There was like, he wasn't fully cleared when DeVries spoke to the media at Huber's. So to see him out on the floor, essentially, what was, I think, like the next day or the day after, was encouraging stuff. But one of the biggest takeaways that DeVries, or that came from DeVries' media appearance at Huber's, and what we also saw in the roster update that we got, he said that the team's still actively recruiting. He said that we haven't gotten definitive answers on the waiver processes for Goody and Leal yet, and that we'll kind of see where those end up. We also saw Lamar Wilkerson's going to be wearing number 3. Josh Harris is going to be wearing number 10. Goody and Leal's numbers. So
it'd be weird to see them in different numbers.
It'd be super weird to see them come back in different numbers. That, because I very confidently sat here.
Point,
I was gonna say I confidently sat here a month ago and said the roster was done with Goody and Leal coming back, and now I'm like, I would say I'm like 65-35 that they're not coming back.
Yeah, so here's how this eligibility thing. So here's the case. So in the year 2023, which is kind of funny because they're on different teams at the time, Anthony Leal played 11 games. Goody only played 10 games. Now, the rules state that you can't play more to be eligible for a non-medical red shirt is that you have to play in less than 30% of the games, and you can't play after the halfway mark. That's what the NCAA rules say. In Goody's case, he's a sliver over that 30% threshold at 10 instead of 9 games played, but all those games occurred after the halfway point. And then Leo obviously played 11, which is very obviously and I'm sure one of those games was after the halfway point because that's how Leo goes. He gets benched the whole year and then no one's rotating on defense, so they throw Leo in. So I didn't even have to check that to know that Leo played the second half of that year. That's how every year went under Woodson. It's like, oh, Leal's not good enough on this super talented loaded roster we played, and then he's the only one playing defense. It's like, fuck it, Leal's in. That's how it goes. And yeah, so they have tough cases for sure. I had it at 50% just because I didn't really look into what exactly their case was looking like. I knew the guidelines, but I didn't know when they played, or I heard Goody got hurt for most of the year, so he has that case to where he was hurt for most of that year and then came back at the end of the year. So Goody has a much stronger case than Leal. People say, oh, Leal played 5 years. Well, everyone got the free COVID year, so that it actually doesn't matter in this case. It really just comes down to he played 11, and one of them was after the halfway point. So they have decent cases. I can see why they're pending, but I'm a big advocate of there's talks about having 5-year eligibility for college athletes. I think that's absolutely asinine. It's got to be 4 years. We're talking college athletics here, guys. 4 years, you're out of there. Obviously, we have red shirts and medical waivers and things like that can get you up there, but this idea where it's default 5 is insane, crazy. It will worse than any. That would be worse than anything that came out of the NIL and the portal. Any talk about tournament expansion that takes the cake as like what would ruin the sport. Anyways, I'm not super confident in them coming back. Definitely lower than 50% on both of them. But yeah, that leaves room to where maybe we can get a big, which is something we've been talking about. I know it's what IU fans want. DeVries has already said that, they're going to struggle against size with this roster, which could be the case, but yeah, we might be taken advantage of for size, but I can almost guarantee you we'll be one of the top 5 best shooting teams in the Big Ten this year. With Reed Bailey at the 5, DeVries at the 4. I mean, it's shooters galore with that lineup. So, yeah. So we'll see.
I mean, we threw around a couple different 6'10", 7-footers out there. There was guys with size that might not be the most skilled. There's guys that have skill that might not have. Like there are still pieces
from Charleston. Like he's still out there. He was player of the year over there, so that'd be a good guy to bring in.
The 13 scholarships is the number to keep the eye on, because obviously once you go past there, it's going to impact rev share, and they're not going to impact rev share. So I can see this being a scenario where they're respecting the waivers of Leal and Goody, but it could be something where it's like, holy cow, they moved fast after they got no's for both of those waivers, or like that's your roster. So it definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. But it is kind of odd that we still don't have answers for those guys, especially with how confident a lot of the people close to the program were about these being cleared.
I think you're thinking about it right when you mentioned that. I think they're just waiting on the waivers, and I think they have a plan, whether it's yes or no for both of them. So we'll just see what happens.
Yep.
It's hard for me to imagine they're in practice and they don't have a roster plan for. Ante Brzovic is just sitting there in the portal right now. He doesn't have a team. So that guy, really good player, really skilled big. Would be great to have off the bench or starting, however he wants to use them. But not really the rim protector that we kind of need. And is Federico's just around?
I honestly don't even know. Dude, it was so confusing trying to figure out the basketball portal today, like who was still available. Like that for something that everybody seems to have a hang of, like it took me forever to find out like who is still eligible and whatnot. And honestly, I don't even know if the pool of players I was looking at have eligibility. I'm not sure how many people in the portal still have a legitimate chance of playing next year. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm looking at these guys going, like, can we even play next year? Like, I don't even know. And I'm not sure we're going to get clarity on that for a little bit. So,
yeah, it's also year one. Like, let's take a pause. Let's try to make the tournament, I always come down as I always see in the comments, Brad's so negative about Indiana. Well, here's the reality. I grew up a UCLA fan. They've been relevant my whole life. Indiana has, since Bob Knight retired in 2000, they went to the Final Four in 2002 with Knight guys. Haven't been there since. They've been to 4 Sweet 16s. It's time to just, set your expectations. Just enjoy a good football team, enjoy a good football program, because I think I said this on Twitter, like we win the Natty in football. Basketball will take care of itself. Just look at Alabama right now. Where do they have any business being a top 15 basketball program in the country right now? But they are.
It's have money.
What do you think? That's the program that Saban built. I know they hired Nate Oates, and that was a killer hire. That is the program that Saban built with the football program. Them having the resources to be able to do what they just did in basketball. So it all works itself out. Football's where the money is. Let's get with the program here and get our priorities straight, because being good at football is only going to help basketball. That's the reality. And I don't think people are too stuck in their old ways thinking basketball is the crown jewel at the school, when I don't think that's what Pam Whitten thinks. I don't think that's what Scott Dolson thinks. Obviously it's important that we have a good competitive basketball team at all times, and we're competing for the tournament, if not making it every year. But that's where you start. We just haven't been in that spot where we're making the tournament every year. So let's get to that first, and then we'll see if we can dance, because you can't go far in the dance if you're not dancing. You know
That's a fact.
You know,
that is a fact.
You know, so if you're gonna get mad, if you're gonna fire a coach over not going far in the dance, how about try coaches that don't even get to the dance? How about that? How do you like it now? You know, maybe we shouldn't have fired the coach, 2 or 3 years ago, because you guys were so naive and egotistical about what Indiana basketball should and shouldn't be. So it's basketball. It's literally kids shooting hoops, and we're and we're just slandering coaches over it. It's insane.
It's just my closing thought for Indiana basketball would be that it was like comparing the Signetti presser to presser. It wasn't a presser. It was a media availability, right? Like it was like almost like people stepping over each other to get questions into DeVries, like almost like verbal fighting to like get words out. And it's like, God, the guy's not going anywhere, guys. Like he's going to answer your questions. You're standing there. But it was like the level of, I guess, urgency to talk to, urgency to produce content and it's like, yeah, it's very obvious which one currently runs the headlines in Bloomington. That being said, like you look at the output of the football program right now and which one looks like the race car that should be invested in. It's like, how about the program that went to the playoff tournament that's lining up to do it again? That so I don't think either program are in a bad spot, but I just like Indiana football, I think is in a much better position to. It's just a little bit of like rabidness almost towards like the basketball coverage, which is a little bit, I don't want like cringe is the wrong word, but it was just like, it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like I almost felt like they were attacking the guy.
Yeah, it's and John mimics that same point. Good luck selling that in Bloomington. It's banner or bust. Knight taught us well when it came to basketball knowledge. I mean, yeah, obviously we're trying to go into each season winning a championship, stacking weeks, stacking days, stacking weeks, stacking months, stacking years. It applies to basketball too. I mean, this stuff just doesn't happen overnight. No pun intended. Ooh, there we go. It doesn't happen overnight.
Oh,
wow. You didn't get
like
that, did you? Huh?
No, I didn't. It went right over my head. Do you have just a closing thought in general?
I like where we're at, like basketball wise. I think going into camp, I think it's clear that the only sure starters on this team are Reed Bailey, Tucker DeVries, and Tate Connerway at the point.
You won't put Wilkerson in this conversation, which is super odd. There's no way he comes to Indiana over Kentucky if he's not starting.
Yeah, he might have a guaranteed spot, but I could see, like, just in terms of just evaluating the guys, like, if I'm gonna, I was really high on Carlisle last year, and he, absolutely just disappointed me. I mean, if you're gonna find a guy that could be like that, it could be a guy like Lamar Wilkerson. He was on a team that didn't win very much, but still scored 18 points a game, shot very efficiently from three. I like him. Like, I'm gonna be rooting for him. But I think there's something to prove. There's something to prove, and that's my point. Like, I think a lot of these guys are coming in where, I think with Woodson, I think there was a lot of promises made. And Baco come back, you'll start. And they had to force start him throughout the course of the year last year because that was the promise that was made, right? And when it was very clear that when he was off the floor, the team played a lot better. It was very clear. Just because you're a really good volume scorer doesn't make you a net positive on the basketball team. That doesn't equate. I myself am a volume scorer when I go play, and if I'm not hitting shots, we lose.
period. Like that guy take too many shots. So if Ibaka doesn't make shots, we lost, and that's what happened last year because he's pretty negligent on defense, for sure. So it's like, basketball's it's a game of back and forth, and you need. I don't know. I'm losing my thought here, but yeah, Wilkerson, I believe in him. I think he will end up being the starting two, and that third guard spot's really up in the air. You look at Nick Dorn coming in. That's a guy that catches my eyes a lot. Our guy at IU Reactionary, Jamie Jordan, likes Josiah Miles to start at that third guard spot. So that's a battle that's wide open and can really end up going to anyone. And with a lot of experienced guys. We already have Connor Enright as the backup point guard, pretty solid in. And I know Sam Alexis is going to be the backup 5 when he comes in. He's more of a less skilled big, but more of like that bruiser that even though he's 6'8", he is 240 pounds. He can bang with big fellas down low and make it uncomfortable for him, which is the type of center that, DeVries didn't play a single guy over 6'9" last year. Hansberry was his go-to. He literally mimics the body type of Hansberry, who was his center last year. So to have him off the bench, I think there's a lot of familiarity with how DeVries likes to run his program, which was top 10 in defensive efficiency last year, despite not having that size. So we'll see how he coaches them up despite not having that size. Because, yeah, you can score in the paint, but, if you're an absolute pest in the perimeter and you can't even get the ball into the paint, that's a whole nother problem you have to face with the Hoosiers. So there's levels to this thing. It's not as simple as just dump it into the center, they score. You gotta get it to the center. If you can prevent that on the perimeter with really good, rotations, it solves the problem to a point, right? Like obviously boards will become a concern, but team rebounding, make sure everyone's disciplined, doing the right things. Like these are things that this program was missing for about, I'm not gonna throw Woodson, I'll say 8 years. I would say, Woodson's era probably had more talent, a lot, less disciplined. I would say Archie's teams probably had discipline, lacked a lot of talent. It's probably not like just to generalize it, I guess. Obviously, there's probably some, blips there, outliers, but I think you just got to find that balance. And there's plenty of productive college players on this team. It's all about just putting it together and being disciplined, playing as a unit. And I kind of like the idea that this is not like a superstar. I think Tucker DeVries is a superstar in the making, but he's not like.
I would argue they have like 2 or 3 guys that you would call like
all league level potentials. I see that, but they're not like these 5-star recruits that can.
No, they don't have anybody who's going to be like mocked in the top 5 of next year's draft.
Renew was a 5-star. Mbaka was a 5-star. You had kind of, what do you call it? Folklore legend Trey Galloway. You had Miles Rice, who was kind of the one of the more
Hood Schifino.
Yeah, Rice and Carlisle were 2 of the most highly touted guards in the portal last year, and Indiana got both of them, and 2 combo guards that it just didn't work. And so, constructing a team, which is what DeVries has said multiple times when he first started the job, and go figure, he gets all these, rugged grinders from the group of 5 from the mid-major level to compile a Big Ten team. Sounds very, 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 very familiar to a rebuild we saw about, I don't know, 12 months ago in Bloomington. So, we've talked with Pundit enough to know that we're not trying to compare DeVries to Sig. We try not to, but I think it's a good thing when you can still find similarities, even though you're not trying to find them. They're kind of just blatantly there.